Nice.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Deep Take. I'm here with life coach Regard Tang. She's incredible, amazing, but before she became a life coach, she spent over a decade as a professional makeup artist in the fashion and commercial industry, and she's traveled throughout LA, San Francisco, New York. She's kind of been all over the place. She's also worked for Victoria's Secret, Project Runway, and Bobbi Brown, to name a few. But throughout that journey, she kind of came to a point where she felt burnt out and needed to make a transition. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that. So Regard, thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to go ahead and dive into our first question. So can you tell me about that transition from being in a career in cosmetics, and kind of how that led you to, quote unquote, your bigger mission? And tell us, what exactly is that bigger mission?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this because like last time when we had a chat, it was like amazing.
Yes.
And and then the vibration was like so high.
Yes,
I was
yes.
like, "Yay!"
I know. You and I are like so intense, and you're from New York, and I love people who are from New York because they're just so direct. Their work ethic is just like on par.
On point,
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about the transition. So yes, so actually being a life coach is my third career. My first career was in marketing. So I graduated, I got like a 9 to 5 job. Actually, it's 7:30 to 3:30 job. Like people say 9 to 5, I'm like,
Yeah.
no, actually it starts at 7:30.
Yeah.
But
It's a
anyways,
little different, a little different.
exactly, and I'm not like a morning person. But anyway, so I was in marketing, and then 2009 the market crashed. I couldn't find a job back in marketing, and I started asking myself, what do I want to do in my life? And my boyfriend during that time asked me, hey, so what do you want to do? Like, because it's been a year, it seems like that you're struggling to find a job, look for a job. And during that time, no one will hire marketing. Marketing is the first one that get cut, right?
Yeah.
Because that like they're like, well, we are going to close the company sooner or later. We don't need marketing.
Yeah. Right.
So I didn't put too much thought in it, and my first answer was like, oh, I just want to learn makeup. So he was like, why don't you just go learn? I was like, that is an insane idea, because I was living in San Francisco during that time, and San Francisco do not have like big cosmetology school or like beauty school, let's put it that way. So if I have to go to LA, then I have to like pay for the tuition, I have to pay for the rent, pay for the food, so a lot of like expenses. But at the end, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's better to just go back to Hong Kong, because that I have a place to stay, and I originally from there anyways. So I have family, I had my grandma there, I had friends, so maybe that was like a better idea. So within, I think 3 weeks, if I remember correctly, I brought a ticket, and I brought a one-way ticket and flew back to Hong Kong. And it was 2010 April. Of course, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know which beauty school that I was going to do. I had like a couple of few in mind, but then when I got there, I started doing research, and like within a short period of time, I paid the tuitions, and then I started going to school. And I stayed there for 6 months in Hong Kong. And after that, I came back to the state. I started in San Francisco as a wedding makeup artist, because again, I didn't know what I was going to do. You know, I always have a heart in fashion, but I was like, how can I start as like a beginner makeup artist with no book, no portfolio, no one, and get to fashion? There's like a huge step, right? Like it's just too far.
There's a huge gap there. Yeah.
Exactly. But then like the first year, someone asked me, hey, like, how do you see yourself in 5 years? I was like, well, that is like a question that everyone is asking everyone. Hey, how do you see yourself in like 5 years or 10 years, right? But then I was like, oh yeah, I want to work in New York Fashion Week. I just want to like work with like big company, things like that. And after I said, I was like, what the fuck that I was talking about?
You're like, what is this dream that I want? I mean, it's gonna happen, but like, what the fuck?
But then back then, I just didn't know anything regarding like manifestations, like because like 2010, like manifestations is not a term, okay?
Not at all. Yeah, that was like, it was still brewing underneath, you know?
Exactly. So now that like manifestations is everywhere, but then back then, like you're like, oh, put it out to your universe, like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. What do you mean by put it out to your universe? It's not a thing.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so shortly after, I realized that I do not want to do weddings. It's just not where my heart is. And I was dating a photographer during that time, and I was like, hey, do you want to move to LA? He was like, fuck yeah.
Let's do it. I'm in.
So we packed everything in one car and left every like with the rest behind, because that his family is in Daly City, which is in California. And we store whatever stuff that we store at the basement. And then we just moved to LA with no connections, little saving. I don't have friends there. I don't even know where do I live during that time, right? So we just moved, and we make it happen. Let's say it that way. And then because that he was a photographer, and now that he became a retoucher. But anyway, so so we built our book together. So we help each other's out, and we shot in the apartment. It was amazing. So I got signed with an agency in San Francisco, because that my book is getting stronger and stronger and stronger within a short period of time. And then I was staying in New York for 2 years. New York, it wasn't for me. Let's put it that way. Some people love it. Some people hated it. I'm the one that just absolutely hated it. Now I might change my thought. It's just because during that time I was surrounding with like models that they are trying, models, like makeup artists, everyone is just trying to get to like a higher level. So it just wasn't like a good feeling back then.
Yeah, like unhealthy, maybe toxic culture, right?
Yeah, a little bit. It's just because like everyone wants to be famous.
Yeah, right.
You know, because everyone is just starting, everyone's trying to figure out, everyone is just climbing that ladder. Is like, I want to be successful, I want to be well known, you know.
For sure.
So like I was telling my boyfriend during this time, I was like, you know what, I just can't. I have to move to New York right now. He was like, are you fucking out of your mind? We just moved to LA like 2 years ago.
Like, Regard, please, like, make up your mind.
Exactly. And he was like, I just brought my dream car, and he got like a Subaru. And I was like, bro, you can stay here with your dream car, or you can sell your car and get a better car down the road once you're a success.
Right.
So it's your choice, right? So he's like, okay, let me think about it. So shortly after, we make up our mind to move to New York. And actually, I decided to move to New York before I visit New York. So I never visit New York in my life. I don't know what New York looks like. I only know based on movies, TV.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to move there. Let's go. So anyway, so I'm glad that it worked out. But so we moved everything back to San Francisco. We stayed for a short period of time, and then we moved to New York. And while that I was in New York, I was again climbing up that successful ladder. I work with a lot of amazing artists. I met a lot of different agencies. I assist a lot of big company, big artists, and it just opened up my eyes, right? And while that I thought that being a makeup artist is rest of my life of the job, because it's a dream job, and everyone is like, oh my God, your life is so glamorous, your life is so fun. But then no one knows that being a freelance makeup artist working in fashion, or just working in fashion in general, is extremely brutal.
Yeah.
Everyone is replaceable.
Right.
If you get the email right now, you do not respond. Let's say for an assisting job, you do not respond within 10 minutes, someone already got it, because they are emailing like Yeah, it's quick.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are emailing like 10 people, 20 people at the same time. And because that when I first started, I wasn't established. So I didn't get requested. So I'm just one of those, I don't know, 200, 300, 500 people list,
Mm-hmm.
or more. But anyway, so it's just because that of that environment, and always long hours. We always have to chase our payment. You thought that when you work, the money is automatically coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. We're living the 3 months ago's payment,
Yeah, right. That's so uncertain and kind of scary and just stressful. You got to wait for these payments that, you're supposed to get months prior.
Exactly. And also, like, it's very stressful job. No one knows that. Like, people keep saying like, oh, time is money.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not finish it, like, not on time, like, they will keep asking you like, oh, how long do you need?
Right.
Then like you were like, oh, 5 minutes, but then like maybe like 2 minutes they already like got pulled out for the show or whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so it was like really stressful, and I developed depression and anxiety without knowing for so many years. And now when I look back, I actually had depression and anxiety since I was in LA.
Okay.
It just because that the money, the finance is always on the line, is always an issue.
Yeah.
You always have to hustle. You
Right.
always have to be on it in order to make that living. And especially living in New York is not easy. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah. You got to be on your feet like constantly and on it.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So my mental is on the line, and later on my physical is on the line as well. It's just because that the call time is all over the place. Sometimes the call time is 4 a.m. Sometimes the call time is 6 a.m. So let's say 6 a.m. call time, I have to get up at 4 to get ready.
Oh, that's so tough. Oh my, and it changes constantly. Like it's not, it's not like a 9 to 5 gig. It's just
No.
like constantly different all the time. Yeah.
And I always say that when I start the day job, I do not what time it's going to end, and no one knows it's going to end. It's not going to be like, oh, 9 to 6, and then 6 is like, bam, done.
Done. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like that. Like if they are not finished, they will go over time and then shoot and then finish until everything, the shot is done.
Gotcha.
So majority people don't know how fashion world works or beauty world works. Just like not many people talk about it,
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, you said that the depression and anxiety developed back in LA. Can you talk about like some of the signs that you kind of faced within yourself?
Yeah. So I couldn't roll out of bed, honestly. Like I still remember very vividly. One time I was just calling my mom, and then my boyfriend during that time, he went to San Diego for a job. So it's just only me in the house. I wasn't able to roll out the bed. I wasn't able to open the curtain. It's hard for me to clean myself, like take a shower. So I will be in bed, like just roll out of bed for food. And I called my mom. I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on in my life right now. It's just you just don't know. And again, depression doesn't talk enough. So a lot of people they experience depressions, but they do not know they are experiencing depression.
Right. They're not like aware of it because they're not aware of the signs really.
Yeah.
They just think it's normal.
Yeah. And also it's just because that we will talk about, oh yeah, I don't feel well, I have a headache, or what are the signs of the headache, but no one talk about, oh, I have a depression, what are the signs of the depressions,
Yeah, definitely.
So I didn't know that I had depressions during that time, and once I moved to New York, then I developed anxiety, and I didn't know I developed anxiety. How do I know after? Is because when you're on time, you already consider late on a job. It's very interesting, right?
That is very interesting.
Yeah, so supposedly as a makeup artist or beauty team, let's put it that way, because that you have to set it up, like you have to set up, you have to like get everything's ready. So once you go, you like just like go, right? And so we should arrive 15 minutes to 30 minutes before the call time, the actually call time.
Yeah.
So sometimes the train, it just doesn't come. You're standing on a platform and you're like, oh shit, I just missed a train. And when is the next train like coming in? You know what I mean?
Right.
And because of in New York, majority of people, we don't drive. And it's good that you don't drive. It's just because that you were just stuck in traffic. So it's easier to just take train. But then once you miss the train.
It's done. Yeah.
Yeah. You just, it's just not under your control sometimes, you know? So I was just standing in the platform. I keep looking at the clock like over and over and over, but it's still on the same minute, you know? So then I realized that after I actually have a major anxiety.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And it's brutal.
Oh my God.
I mean, now I can laugh about it, you know?
No, but at the time it was like, holy crap, I have to do something about this.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't know until actually 3 years ago. 2018. Then I finally realized that I is something off, is something wrong with me. And I didn't know it just because when I look around in the setting, majority of people, they are like that. You know, like you looking around set, everyone is like, oh, once it's game time, it's like go.
Right. You're not even thinking about it at all.
You just can't, you know, you just don't even have a headspace to like, oh, let me take a step back and pause and breathe. Like, I'm like, what is breathing?
Yeah. What is processing? What is taking a step back?
There's nothing like that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So in that moment when you're like, okay, this is anxiety, this is getting bad, what came after that? Did you decide like, hey, I'm going to make the change now? Or did you have to go through more examples in order for me to be like, okay, I get it, body. I need to like step away from this.
Yeah. So I talked to one of my really close girlfriends. She started going to therapy a year before I start going. So she suggested, she was like, hey, why don't you just talk to someone and maybe see that and is the professional able to help you with it? And I'm a very open-minded person. So I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, I'm just going to talk to a person. You know what I mean? I'm like, cool. And then like, I don't have any expectations. I don't know what I'm signing up to. And I feel like this is my life. I always sign up to things that I don't know what I signed up to anyway.
Right, moving all these different cities, you know, constantly diving into whatever it is that you're passionate about. Like, it's awesome though. I mean, you don't waste time. You just keep, you just keep going on to the next.
Yeah, I'm just experiencing life, you know. But anyway, so she was like, oh yeah, maybe it's just try. So I went into my first therapy appointment, and I still remember within 2 minutes, I fucking bawled my eyes out. I was like, rah! I'm like, what is wrong with me? Why everything is so hard? Why am I blah blah blah? And then I start like my first therapist. She's amazing, and she really helped me to understand it's nothing wrong with me. I do not need to be fixed. And one thing that she talks about, I really love it. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed, okay? But then I start realizing that this lifestyle is not what I wanted for long term. Because my mental is always out of line. My emotion is always like, whoa.
Up and down.
Exactly. You will get an inquiry like, oh yeah, this is like a 2,000 jobs for like, let's say 2 days, whatever. Like, oh, that is the date or whatever. And then you will get the high, right? And then, oh, let's hold this 2 days. But then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, the job is not happening. You will be releasing. So you constantly having the roller coaster emotional to go through. And it's just not healthy. And my health is start going downhill also. Once I stand a very long time, my left side, I have like a sciatica. my left side of the butt cheek down to the leg, I cannot feel anything.
So you were just completely numb.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like I was sitting, how did I start realizing, like I was sitting on a subway and for like, I don't know, like 20-30 minutes. And when I got up, I was like, oh shit, I cannot feel on my left side. Like what is going on? Like what is wrong with me? I even went to a doctor. I went to like a therapy. And it just didn't help.
Jeez. Oh boy. Okay. Okay, gotcha. So you start going numb, and while you're going numb, you're going to therapy at the same time, right?
Yeah, I'm going to a talk therapy, and I also going to like a physical therapy.
Okay. Wow. You're like, man, I need all the therapy because
absolutely.
the cosmetic industry is like killing me. Oh my God. Okay.
Absolutely. I think that like people, they still enjoyed it. I had so much passion about it, but it's just because that some people, they think that this is their lifestyle, and they think that, oh, because I've been in the industry for so long and I cannot change. But for me, I'm like, no. Everything is not in line. Everything is out of line. Like, it's my job controlling my life. It's not me controlling my life.
Right. And that's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that in that sense, that I start realizing I need to get out of the industry, but I do not know how. And one time I was assisting a job on Calvin Klein. It was like a huge job. And I think that set was around 200 people, if I remember correctly, like plus like around 200. Anyway, so I started develop awareness during that time, because I had this job, I think early 2019. So I started going to therapy for a long enough time. And I just like really stepped back and looking at the people, I was like, holy shit, this is such as a shit show. Even though I become a very successful person, now I'm in a smaller hamster wheel. But when I get to the successful people like them, like they're well known, they get like a lot of jobs, a lot of money, they are still in a bigger hamster wheel. And I look at them, no one really have the joy inside.
Yeah.
It's very draining, very toxic. And like people, you can tell that they smile is not like
genuine,
like
coming from the inside.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not like that. So I was like, I really need to do something to get out of this. So I talked to my therapist, and I was like, I don't know what I was going to do, but I need to do something. So on 2009 August, I came to Vegas to visit my parents, and I was thinking, what is other way out and not doing fashion but still doing makeup? It's just because that it became my skill, but then I was on Google. I was like, I feel like this is just so funny when I think back now. Universe guide me, like, oh, how to become a life coach.
Like it was right in your face, and that's simple, right? That's what it felt like.
Yeah, but like I never thought about I would become a life coach. I never thought that I'm able to help out the people. I always want to help people, but I just don't know how, beside doing makeup and make them beautiful. You know what I mean? So that time, like, oh, I just like, how to become a life coach. And then like a school popped up, and I was like, oh, this school looks interesting. It looks legit, right? So I am a person that who go down to the rabbit hole because I love doing research. I want to know as much of information I could. Yeah. So I did like a 3-4 days research, and I was like, okay, this looks promising. So I had a call with the school, and they answer all the questions I needed, and I liked the answer. And I was like, okay, cool. Take my money.
Take it all. We're going in.
Exactly. Take my money, and then we like all in, right?
Yeah.
And when I was in school, I was still debating. I was like, dude, is this like a great idea transitioning? But I was like, well, my my theory of life is like YOLO. You just have to try it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I tried it. I still questioning myself. I still have a lot of like debating on myself, but it's the best gift that I could give myself during that time, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And then of course COVID hit last year, and I graduated during COVID, and I feel like universe really gave me an opportunity to get a way out and have a head start before COVID hit. Because at first I was thinking, okay, after I became a life coach, I'm still living in New York and work between as a makeup artist while I'm building my business. And I gave myself 2 years.
Right.
And once COVID hit, I was like, okay, bye-bye.
I gotta go. I'm out of here.
It's like, peace.
But you know what's interesting? I almost feel like you got your training in, and then the pandemic hit, right? And here's everyone in their house, like having to face their shit.
Yeah.
So they're like, let me call Regard because I got some shit to work through. So honestly, it kind of worked out for you. Just the whole process.
Yeah, it's great. And honestly, being a makeup artist, and I'm sure some of the hairstylists that they can relate, people talk about their shit to us all the time because we are right in front of them. And we have the moment, it's just between me and the model or me and the client. So what are we going to talk about, you know? And of course that like we start talking about the small talk and then we dive in a little bit more. And this is how you develop connections, you know? But then it's just so funny, like a lot of makeup artists that they can relate, they're like, oh yeah, actually that we are their therapists.
Except you guys don't get paid.
Exactly. We get paid on the job.
Yeah, on the job.
So we still get paid.
Yeah.
So I think that is great that I start getting training that way, like since like long time ago, and just listening people's issue, listening people's like what they are going through, and like just having like organic conversations that way.
Right.
So yeah, no, it's been great. And I think that this mission, it just brought me to like a bigger fulfillment, because that I told myself that I lost joy for so long. I don't know what joy is anymore.
Right.
And I need to do something to help myself and be joyful again, so I can have like a ripple effect to help other people and people around me, that they will be happier. So yeah.
Absolutely. And like you said, it kind of came naturally because as a makeup artist, you're meeting a bunch of new people, probably listening to their problems and talking about their life. So it almost feels like it was like already inside of you.
Yeah.
So, when you look on your website and social media, there's an emphasis on self-development, mindset, self-love. Can you kind of talk about these ideas, and also what led you to highlighting these certain ideas in your life coaching?
Yeah, so let's talk about self-development first, because that I focus on self-development, self-love, and mindset. So self-development is I started when I start going to therapy. And I was like, oh, there's a lot of things that I don't know. And then I start having all those like self-help YouTube video. I listening to a lot of things. And then my mind is just growing like crazy, you know? So it just gives me a lot of different perspective, a lot of things. It showed me that it's not only one angle. There's so many angles. And I always tell people that everything is three-dimensionals, right? If you keep looking on one angle, then of course it's just only one angle. But if you turn a little bit, then it's another different angle, right?
Yeah, right.
So that is the self-development for me, to just like start it. And for self-love is I never loved myself in the past. I had a really hard time and had an issue to love myself. Because that I left my parents since I was 12. I born and raised in Hong Kong. and I moved to the States when I was 12 by myself. Of course, that my parents, they came here and settled down everything's with me. My dad, I think that he stayed for like 2 weeks to a month, while my mom stayed with me 3 months. But when you're 12 years old, you don't know what is going on, that your parents left you on another country, right?
Right.
Now, of course, that I know that I had a better education. So now I speak English fluently. If I'm still in Hong Kong, it will be way more limited opportunities, you know?
Right.
And because that people in Asia is not as open-minded compared to in the Western, right? So my life is designed that way, and I'm very grateful on that sense. But then as a 12-year-old, you just don't know how to love yourself, and you think that your parents abandon you, you know? So I never know how to loving myself. I always find love outsourced it. Means that I find it from my boyfriends, and I always like, oh, what, like I'm just having like those like attachment issues, like I'm like really attached to people, you know?
Right.
But then it's always not working out in a way that I wanted to. It's just because I never fill my own cup. I always looking for outsourced people to fill my cup.
Yeah.
So of course that back to my therapy again, my therapist like showed me that how to love yourself. It's a learning journey. Now I can say that I love myself a lot, and I have boundaries. I'm not bending over backward for other people. But in the past, it was issue. Like I cannot, like even though when a relationship doesn't work out, I just hold on to it really tight. So I always got dumb in the past, and I just don't understand, right? But then now that when I look back, it's just because that first, it's a lesson. Second, it's not meant to be together. And third, universe is giving you this lesson. It's basically, it's on your face, telling you that you have to love yourself.
Right.
Then now that, of course, that after living on the earth for 40 years, that I know.
Right. No, now you know after 40 years.
Now I know.
You're like, damn, why did it take so long?
Yeah. So, but then I don't think that is a long or short journey. It's just because that I think about it, every day we are learning, every day that you are evolving, every day you're learning something new. So even though it took me a little longer time to understand what self-love is, but then I feel like now that I am able to show people because that I have more knowledge, and also because of 10-year makeup industry taught me so much, and had like that as a backup to understand why life happened this way, you know? So that it helps me on loving myself more. So yeah. And mindset.
Yeah.
So mindset is basically is a relationship with self-development and self-love as well. And a lot of people say that, oh, I can't do that, I can't do that. I'm like, are you telling yourself that you cannot do that, or have you tried already? If you haven't tried and not knowing, but then you tell yourself that you're not able to do that, then you know what? You're right, then you cannot do it. Right. But if you're being curious of like, hey, maybe I can try and see how that goes, then that mindset, it gives you more experience. It opens up other doors.
Yes.
So mindset is like a huge thing, and I keep telling people, and I show people, we all have blind spot, right? And as a coach, I show my client, and I even show my friends, like, okay, you see it that way, but if you look at on the other side, there might be other stuff that you just never thought you would see.
You can't see, right?
Exactly. Right. So that's the mindset.
I mean, honestly, that is a beautiful response. Something that you pointed out that I thought was interesting was when you started talking about self-love, and also how you kind of had to work through with this idea of like being abandoned by your parents, right? As a 12-year-old, you don't fully understand what that means. But now as an adult, you understand why, you know, you had to make those changes for you know, a better education, better life, all those things. Can you talk about how you moved through that and healed through that? Because I know a lot of people, I'm sure, you know, are still kind of working through those like narratives in their adult life.
Absolutely. So, one thing I want to say that I love my parents a lot, and I'm the only child, you know. I just do not understand the concept why they can left their child when she's only 12. You know what? So I hated my parents at my at my teenagers, at my 20s. And I had a really bad communications with them. I just don't know. I just don't understand what is going on. But then when I start going through therapy, when I start working through on myself, my self journey, I start opening up and I start asking a lot of questions. And even though when, like, because back then I live in New York and I came to Vegas to visit them, we had deep conversations, like we will bawl our eyes out. It's like being extremely vulnerable. I'm like, I understand that you guys want to give me a better education, but it traumatized me.
Right.
And of course that they were like, well, it's not what we wanted. And I will say that, of course I understand now, but I wasn't able to understand when I was younger. But I still don't understand at some point, like, do I not doing enough? That's why you send me away. So there's like a lot of deep conversations going on, and there's a lot of vulnerable moment. You feel like, oh my God, this feels so naked right now.
Yeah. I feel so bare. I'm bearing my soul. I'm like getting into like the really nitty gritty shit of who I am. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but then on those quote unquote scary moment or quote unquote vulnerability moment, actually those are courage. Those are the way that it helps me to heal. And I know if I do not ever have this kind of talk with them, I mean, they are at their 70s, right? Sooner or later, they would not be here. If I am holding on to my, how do I say it? Like my thought of, oh, they don't like me, or like, it's just like, if I do not open up and ask them and give them the opportunity to explain, I will never know. And when they are not here anymore, this will be like a question forever, and I will not able to heal, you know? Yeah. So I know that I need to go over that journey and go over that crazy hump.
The big one.
It's a big one. In order to heal myself and understand better, because I'm a natural curiosity person. So I love to ask questions. So, and I told them that I'm not here to judge you. I just don't understand. And I want to share my part of the story. And they're like, oh shit, I didn't know that is how you felt. And I was like, you know what? If we can go back, never let a 12-year-old make a mistake.
Yes, just don't do it. Do not. Just forgot. My God, jeez. I have to go to therapy because of it now.
I honestly think that everyone, it's good to go to therapy. It's just because that we constantly in our head. It's nice to talk to other people because people will give you other perspective. So that is some things that I want to touch on for the therapy. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think therapy should be available to everyone. You know,
agreed.
You know, in a perfect world, it'd be free and available to every person, because all of these emotions are normal. And like you said, like you went through, you know, that moment with your parents and your family. And like you said, it takes a lot of courage to like go over those humps. But look at you now. You know, here you are helping other people heal and guiding them through your journey, through your bravery.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
Delicious, delicious.
I'm like, yummy.
Yes. So now that we're on the talk of, sort of belonging, right? I want to talk about finding your tribe, because we had kind of touched on that last time when we had our conversation. You said that, you always felt kind of different. It was kind of hard for you to find like a place where you belonged.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that journey in kind of struggling to find your tribe? And also, do you feel like you belong to a tribe now? Where do you fit in all of that?
Yeah. So I always feel like I'm a weird kid. Everyone is weird in their own way. It's just because this is our uniqueness, right? But then people have like people think that weird is a bad rap. It's like, oh, this is such not a good word. But I take it as a compliment. I'm like, I love to be weird. I want to be weird because that I do not want to be in like a cookie cutter. I want to be unique, So why I said myself that I am a weird person is just because that I speak my mind. I'm a very straightforward person. I am very expressive, and some people see me, I'm so animated. And before I was like, I'm animated, how? And I'm like, if people can see my face, they will see my expressions.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's very like, how Regard is feeling because it's right on your face.
It's right here. Like I cannot hide. Like I don't know what is hiding is.
Right.
Everything is like right here, right?
Yeah.
So when I was at my 20s, I had a really hard time because that people say that, oh my God, you're too straightforward. You're just hurting people's feeling. And you shouldn't be too expressive. And I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't. So there's a constant fight within, and people commented. And I was like, and again, what is wrong with me, right? And because that back then I don't know what self-love is, so I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be too expressive. Maybe I should just be like everything is the same to other people, and I shouldn't curse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe I should lay low a little bit. Yeah,
exactly. But then I am an extra person, I want to make an entrance when I go into a room. And this is me. And people, they love me. They see me. Oh my God, Regard has so much joy. And Regard is such as like a funny person, right?
Yeah.
So later on, after I became a makeup artist, I start speaking my mind a little bit more, and I start being more like a weirdo. And when I was on the West Coast, I feel like it's slightly a little bit harder, or just based on my own experience. It's just because that West Coast, that they are a slightly more conservative compared to the East Coast, right? Because I live in two coasts.
Right.
It's nothing bad about it. It's just because like it's how my personality is, right? It works for some people, but does it really work for me? I honestly don't think so.
Yeah, it doesn't gel well. I need to be myself.
Exactly. But then like once I moved to New York, it was like 2015. I was like, dude, this is my home. I'm like, fuck yes.
These are my people.
Yeah, because like I talk to people, like people is just like they express themselves on outfits.
Yes.
They express themselves on other stuff, on like music or like art, like because there's a lot of like art going on in New York, and a lot of like music stuff going on, right? Mm-hmm. So people constantly, it's not people constantly being weird, it's just people constantly embracing their weirdness.
Yes.
You know?
Right.
And honestly, I miss that so much. I'm not going to lie.
Honestly, I bet because everyone is weird, but not everyone is actually embracing it and feels comfortable to put it out there. Yeah,
exactly. Totally. Because people is like, oh my God, I don't want to be weird, so I don't want to be judged. And I'm like, why the heck that you care other people's judge? Everyone's judging everyone anyways. Yes, because people are judging is not in a bad way. People, they judge to protect themselves.
Right. It's a
And it is
safety thing. Yeah.
exactly. So if people judge you, cool. Let them judge.
That's on them. That's on them.
Exactly. Don't take
Right.
it personal. It's nothing personal,
Right.
So when I was in New York, I was like listening to my music and I would be like dancing, and people was like looking at me. I'm like, hey.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Whenever I'm in a restaurant, I'm like jamming to the tunes. No one in the restaurant's dancing. And I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my expression though. Like, why would I want to hide that? You know what I mean?
Exactly. So it was really hard for me when I was in my 20s to finding my tribe. But then once I was in New York, then I was able to find my people. I'm able to find my weird kids, and because of I developed how to love myself more. I understand that tribe is not easy to find.
Yeah.
To start with, okay? When you are older, when you're getting older, because that you just don't put up shit with other people as much. When you were younger, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I should just like bend over backward to like make people like me. But when I'm older now, I'm like, if you like me, perfect. If you don't like me, okay, cool.
Yeah. Either way, I'm cool. Either way.
Exactly. So while I was in New York, I was able to find myself more. So in that sense, I'm able to find my tribe more. And now that I live in Las Vegas, it's a little bit harder for me. It's just because I think that it's a transition as an artist. And now that I have to become a quote unquote more professional, and life coach is like, oh, you shouldn't curse. And I'm like, why I shouldn't?
You're like, fuck you then.
I'm like, beep you. Exactly. So, and also because I moved during a pandemic, so it's a little bit harder to meet people. And of course that I got chances, like I have chances to meet some friends. So I make some friends while I'm in Vegas. It's amazing. But I know that being in Vegas is a great opportunity for me to learn and see and able to heal my relationship with my parents, because that now I'm living with them. So I think that universe put me in Vegas for a reason. But will I stay here for another 10, 20, 30 years? I don't see myself so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta go. You gotta get back into the East Coast.
Yeah. or Europe.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, not East Coast. I'm going out of the country. I'm leaving.
I start manifesting. I was like, I haven't go to Amsterdam, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should I should move to Amsterdam for 3 months.
Yes, do it. Regard. Yes. Take your life coaching, your healing out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the beauty is like I can work everywhere. In the world. That is the beauty, So I just feel like as a coach, especially a life coach, you just have to see the world. You have to see other different things in order to able to relate to different people.
Yes, that's super important. Yeah, being out of the country and seeing how a different culture lives will definitely add to just like your scope of understanding and your scope of being able to relate to other people.
Yeah, because if you do not understand their culture, if you do not understand where they're coming from, it's really hard to relate. Then even though you have a sympathy, but you do not have the empathy for them.
Right.
So so this is the reason why that I told myself that I know that part of me, I'm gypsy. So I need to move around in order to learn more people, because I have so much passion of learning about people and knowing different stuff. So
I love it. So we're starting to wrap up here, but I'm going to get into our last 3 questions here. So first one is, what do you fear the most, Regard?
When I got this question from your email, I was like, oh shit.
You're like, can we skip this one?
Hey, fear is actually is everyone experience,
Yeah.
I think that I ask myself, what is my most fear right now is I absolutely, there's three fears. Fear of abandonment for sure, but then I'm working through that right now. And I feel like I'm getting through, I'm overcoming that slowly. And absolutely fear of failure. Just because that part of me, even though makeup serve a purpose, but also I just got out of it, a makeup industry last year. Part of me, I still feel like I haven't done enough as a makeup artist. So part of me, I feel like I fail. But I also having that mindset, have to switch that this is not fail. This is a purpose, and it serves you for a bigger mission in your life, you know?
Right.
But then because of, as being a human, you have to overcome that. So I'm overcome that slowly but surely, you know? So I'm overcoming that, like being fail as a failure or like whatever. But I think that I remind myself that it is okay to fail, because that I'm doing something new and I shouldn't be extremely good at something new, you know? Like now that I'm becoming like a life coach is something new for me, right? I know that I'm good at it, but it is okay to fail as well. Those fail lessons, it gives you more understanding, and it gives you experience of life, so you can relate to other people as well, you know?
Yeah.
And fear of being broke. I don't want to be broke again.
Oh, right. Because you were kind of climbing yourself out of debt at some point in time.
Dude, I was so fucking broke when I was in LA.
Oh God.
I have to say that I was broke AF.
Wow.
So when I moved down to LA, I think that I had like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 grand, which is not too bad. But I got to a point that I was like, after I pay for the next rent month, I do not have any money to pay for the month after.
Right.
And that's why I had depression. But anyway, so I went through that, and I had like a $10,000 debt for 8 years.
Wow.
And I couldn't fully pay until 2018. I fully paid, and I told myself I would never get into debt again in my life.
Right.
Unless I purchase a car or a house, then that is a different story, you know? But now I have so much awareness. I will not buy things that I cannot afford. I have so much awareness on that. So these are the 3 things that I am fear on. So yeah.
Right now. Okay.
Yeah.
So when was the last time you felt vulnerable?
Now.
Every person that I've asked, they're like, right now, like before the interview, right now during the interview. Okay.
Yeah, right now. So I feel vulnerable, honestly, all the time. It's just because that I very embrace my vulnerability. I love being vulnerable. I love being naked in a sense, or bare in a sense, to show people. It's just because that people think that they're always alone. People thought that, oh, I'm experiencing this, is no one experiencing it. I want to be vulnerable. I want to tell my story, and I want to show people that you are not alone, and you never be alone. It's just because not a lot of people talk about it. It doesn't mean that other people not experiencing what you experience. And this is the reason why that I'm very open to talk about my depression and anxiety. It's just because a lot of people they experiencing right now, especially during COVID. And also that it's normal to experience at least one episode in your life of being depressed, because this is called human.
Yeah, this is life. Yeah, this is
life.
What human experience.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So, my next question, I'm going to add this in. This kind of came to me.
Yeah.
What is your advice for people who are wanting to heal themselves, right? Not just physically, but I mean, healing within, healing their soul. healing their life. What do you have to say about that?
Be curious. That is the first step. Be curious and not to judge. Curious and judging is the opposite. If you're curious, you will not judge yourself, you know. So ask yourself hard question. What do I need for myself? Is this serving the purpose? Is this the life that I want to live in, you know?
Right.
And start understanding. You can also, that if you can afford it, go to professional. They can guide you through, of course, but just talk about it, you know. And when you're talking about it, sometimes I have like epiphany moment. I was like, oh shit, actually I answer myself while I'm talking.
Right.
And also if people that they have hard time talking about it, journal. I highly recommend people journal. Journal heal me a lot. It's like a brain dump, you know, like you just dump everything on the paper. And sometimes I was like, oh, I'm so sad. I feel so depressed. But when I finished that journal, I feel better immediately, believe it or not.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that small little move can make a huge difference. Just getting,
absolutely,
you know, your unfiltered thoughts onto paper is, very healing.
Yeah, it's very healing. And I know a lot of people that they heal through doing that way. And listen to different YouTube videos or like podcasts. Just trying to understand. Nothing is wrong with you. It's just out of alignment.
Yeah, that's right. Right. It's all about bringing those like mismatched parts and kind of coming together.
Yeah. Think about if you're driving a car forever for like, I don't know, 35, 50 years and not bringing into the technicians for realignment. Will your car still running? Of course it's falling apart, dude.
Yeah. Behind the scenes, yes, it's falling apart. Yeah.
Yeah. So I highly recommend people to do those like little steps and just try. I always ask my client, don't marry to the idea. Just try and be curious about the idea. And if it doesn't work, move on. It's fine.
The next thing, right.
Exactly.
Just
and
be
then
curious.
Yeah, if you want to revisit it after 6 months, a year, whatever, do it. But if it just like traumatized you or like, oh my God, I don't want to do that again, then don't.
Right.
But people constantly changing. We constantly changing. So your thought will change. The method will change. This time doesn't work. It doesn't mean that it will not work down the road. So
right. I love that.
Yeah.
So my final question for you is, what is something you tell your past self, your current self, and then your future self?
Finding joy. Be joyful. Honestly, when you asked me these questions, I had a really thought, like I have to really think about it. What I have to tell myself in the past is everything happened for a reason. Don't feel like you fail in life because we come to the world without a manual. It's not like, oh, I'm a machine, less troubleshooting.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So you have to figure it out and give yourself compassion. So I will tell that for my past self. Just to be compassionate and be curious. My current self will be believe in universe, because that we as a human, we can only do so much, right? So of course that we set goals, we want to achieve goals and things like that, but then life is always throw you a curveball. And think about it, will I ever thought of I will become a life coach and moving to Las Vegas? 2 years ago, someone told me that, oh, why don't you move to Las Vegas? I'm like, fuck no.
That is out of the question. We're not even stepping foot in there.
Yeah. So like, and universe, of course, is always have a way to help you.
Yes.
To heal or like help you to grow, you know? So now that I will tell myself, really trust your universe, because that, of course, that we all have plans, we all have goals, but then you have to trust the universe, you have to trust your higher self, you have to trust God, whatever that it works for other people. It's just because that our power are very limited. Higher self, that it will show you the way that it should be. And for my future self, that is a tough one. For my future self, really lead people with heart. Really guide people with heart. It's just because that we all need love. This is just came to me right now. We all need love, especially during COVID. Love is missing in a sense. It's just because that there's no human, not human connection, but in person connections. That's what I mean. But I would tell my future self is like, really help people and guide them with your true self, being authentic, being organic, and help them with your heart, and people can feel it. Even though I said it, now I feel it. I had goosebumps.
That's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. Thank you so much, Regard. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for being on the Deep Take.
Yay! I think that this is really deep this time.
Yes, we dived in a little bit more, and I'm happy about it.
So, I love it. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to stop recording right now so we can trans.